Good afternoon and welcome to a 2021 version of Microsoft Word Basics. My name is William White and let's begin. By now, most of you already know what Microsoft Word does. It's a writing application that allows you to create documents like letters and resumes. One of the great things about Word is the fact that the editing capabilities that you have as opposed to the olden days using a typewriter. A lot easier to fix mistakes and change things around using this sort of application. If you've got a later version of Microsoft Office, then you'll be a bit more familiar with what you see now. If you're using 2010 still, same pretty much everything except for when you click on the icon to open up the app. In 2010, when you clicked on the icon to open the app up, it automatically took to a blank document. And in 2013 and later versions of Microsoft, when you click on the app, the icon to open up an app, it will take you to a backstage view screen. Okay. And of course, for the most part, most of us probably want to start with a blank document. So again, even in this backstage view screen that looks like this, you can still access the blank document. So what happens here is that this backstage view screen allows you to actually use a template to create your document. So that's what you see when you guys click on the icon to open up Microsoft Word or Excel or any of the apps. If you want to use one of the templates, for example, maybe you wanted to create a resume and you want to use one of the resume templates, you could do that. You just click on that template that you want to use and go ahead and fill in the information. But again, like I said earlier, more than likely you want to start with a blank document. And so there is a little icon, a little picture there for you to click on to get to a blank document. So go ahead and click on blank document. And it's going to take you to the screen that we're all familiar with, even if you are using a earlier version of Microsoft Word and Office in general. So here we've got the basic setup. At the very top of the screen, the blue and the gray strip that goes across the page, that's called your ribbon. And inside your ribbon, all those little images and pictures, those are called commands. Now commands are basically what allow you to make changes and edits and insert things and to create your document for you. Your ribbon also has something called tabs. Your tabs are the words that read file, home, insert, design, layout, or page layout, references, mailings, review, view, and help. Those words are actually tabs. Tabs is basically a place where they hide more commands because there's not enough space on your screen to show you all the commands that Microsoft Word has to offer. So the app needs a place to hide them, to store them out of sight. If you are looking for a specific command, you can just go ahead and click on the tabs and it'll open up and give you a brand new looking ribbon with different commands. Okay. Underneath the ribbon, underneath the gray strip across, you more likely, hopefully, actually, you'll have a ruler, a horizontal and vertical ruler. If not, then you can go to the tab that says View. And when you click on that, one of the first commands you're going to see is ruler. You can check that box next to ruler, and it's going to basically show your ruler. And the reason why I say that hopefully you've got your ruler in view is because the ruler really helps you and guides you when it comes to formatting your document, your text, and your words and your pictures and whatever it is you have inside your document. So I always use or show my ruler to help me format my document. And obviously in the middle of the page, you've got your document pane. And inside your document pane, you've got that little I-beam. That's your insertion point. Your insertion point is where you can actually insert text or images or whatever it is that you're actually including in your document. What's cool about the insertion point is that you can actually move it around. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to start inserting text here at the 1 inch mark. You can move it down further, just click or double click, depending on your mouse setup, and you can start typing there. Underneath, or at the very bottom, the gray strip at the bottom of the page, that's called your status bar. Status bar is cool because it tells you how many pages you've got in your document, how many words in your document. To the left bottom there, and to the right bottom, you can control your print and your view layouts, and you can zoom in and zoom out. Again, like I said earlier, the top part, remember the top part of your screen, that's your ribbon. And your ribbon consists of a quick access toolbar, tabs, and commands. One of the things that, if you've listened to these or watched these workshops, is I always want people to play around with the app to see and to feel how it works. Don't be afraid to play around and click on certain commands and type in things to see how it affects your document, because that's one of the best ways to learn. So again, on top of that, you get more comfortable with making choices. You're not afraid to, if I click on this, will it damage my document? You'll know that it's extremely hard to do. So again, definitely play around with text, with commands, with your keyboard options and shortcuts, and get comfortable with using Microsoft Word. Again, the insertion point, definitely get comfortable using that as well. Not just with a blank page, but also when you actually do have something inside of your document. Maybe you've got a paragraph. Click in a different area within the paragraph to see what happens. Click on a different area in your paragraph and select a certain command to see how that affects that paragraph. Again, repetition, playing around with the commands and then the keys in your keyboard to see what happens is extremely important. It'll make you feel more comfortable with the process. And speaking of the keyboard, some of the ways you can actually use your insertion point in the keyboard is actually by creating space, is actually using the space bar or your up and down arrows, and also your enter key as well. If you need to actually move down, you don't have to use your mouse. You can just hit enter on your keyboard, and that'll move your insertion point to the next line for you. Your arrow keys work especially well too, especially if you're going left to right. Again, figuring out what the certain commands do is extremely important. One of the reasons why it's extremely important, because honestly it saves you time. Knowing where to go to quickly to get things done. Again, Microsoft Office, to me, in my opinion, one of the most valuable things about Microsoft Office is the fact that it saves you time. Whether that's Word or Excel or PowerPoint or what have you. And learning what does what as far as commands is very important. For example here, let's learn how to actually change the size of the letters. Letters are called fonts. Okay, let's learn how to change the size of a font. So, like with anything in Microsoft Office, if you want to make a change to it, you have to select it first. So let's say, for example, we wanted to change the size of the two words here, for rent. So we click on, or we'd select for rent. You need to click in front of it, drag it across, or you can double click in front of it, and that will actually select those two words. Once you selected what you want to make a change to, you need to go to your ribbon, and here we're going to go to the font style and font size command box. That's the command box that's got more likely Calibri or Arial or Times New Roman inside of it. And right next to that, that area is actually, that's called your font style. Right next to your font style is your font size. And that's the box that's got the numbers in it. So right now our for rent is 12 or 14. We want to increase the size to maybe 72. So we'll go down to 72, click on it, and that's changed the size of our font, our letters, to 72. Let's look at changing the font. That's the style of our for rent. So again, we're going to select for rent, and then we're going to go back up to that same area, and instead of the size, we're going to go to the left there and look into the font style box. So let's choose a font style, and do condensed, and it's changed the style, the look of our fonts, our letters. And let's change the color as well. So again, we're going to click on our, or select rather, sorry, we're going to select for rent, and on our ribbon we've got a command that's an A with a line underneath it. More than likely that line is black or could be red. Either way, there's a drop arrow next to it. We're going to click on that drop arrow, and that's going to open up a little window for us that's going to give us color options. So choose the color that we want to change our letters, our font to, lime green. And we've changed the color of our font. So we've changed our font size, our font style, and our font color. Very simple. Again, definitely play around with that. Select anything, write up a paragraph, select anything, and play around with the style and the size and the colors of the letters. Speaking of style and size of letters, let's say, for example, you're creating a resume. There are some basic guidelines when it comes to having a resume that really is at least legible, and those guidelines are this. You want to make sure that your font size is between 10 and 12, 11 being really good for the actual text inside of your resume, 12 being good for like your headings, for example, like professional experience, things like that. 10, font size 10 is kind of small. It'll work, but it's kind of small. 12 is good, but if you find yourself running onto a second page and you didn't want to, maybe if you decrease your font size to 11, that might help reformat it to a one pager. So again, definitely something to play around with, not just font size, but also just spacing. And that's something that we could talk about later. Font style for your resume, you want something, again, that's easy to read. And easy to read fonts are sans serif. Sans serif, they basically, that means they don't have the little feet or the little funny designs on the bottom or the ends of letters. It's easier for people to read no matter who and where you send it to. Sans serif styles are, Arial, Calibri, Tahoma, Madonna, things like that. But again, as with that as well, you want to play around with and select stuff to see how it works, see if it works for you. Except with spacing, that's definitely something that you want to kind of learn about, because spacing, proper spacing and formatting of your document can mean the difference between 1, 2, 3, and 4 pages. Maybe you want something that's uh, larger, so you want to increase your space, or maybe you do want a one-page document. You need to decrease the space. So by default, Microsoft does a 1.08 spacing between sentences, which is totally fine. Also, single space is fine as well. A little tighter, but it definitely works. Here, let me show you here some examples of the single and Microsoft default spacing and double spacing. To your left here, that summary to the left here shows you the default spacing, 1.08. The summary that's in the middle shows you single spacing, just 1. And the summary to the right, all the way to the right, that's double spacing. Which, again, you wouldn't use something like that for a resume or something, an actual letter. You might use double spacing for maybe some kind of flyer or something. And if you use Microsoft Word a lot, then you'd probably use the line and paragraph spacing command, which controls all this a lot as well. And again, if you want to make a change to something, especially if you've already created that thing, you want to select it first. For example, you've already typed up a paragraph, but you don't like the spacing. So you can still make changes to that spacing. Just select the paragraph. Go up to your ribbon. On your ribbon, there's a line and paragraph spacing command. That's the command that's got the 2 blue arrows, one pointing up, one pointing down. If you just click on that command, it's going to open up a little window that gives you the basic settings or the basic spacings. And if you see what you want to use, maybe like just single spacing, you can click on that, and that'll make that paragraph single space between sentences. Not a problem. If, however, you wanted to actually put in a specific spacing for your sentences, you can do that by clicking on where it says line spacing options. Okay. By doing that, you're basically fine-tuning the line spacing. You're customizing it to your liking. For example, maybe you got a certain memo that needs to be 1.33 or something. So you can do that by clicking on line spacing options. You can type in that 1.33 to get that exact spacing. Here, just basically, this section talks about that. How you can choose your own number or some of those customized settings. So once you click on that line spacing options, you're gonna get a window's gonna open up that looks like this. And toward the final third of that window, there's an area called spacing. And let's say you wanted single spacing. So where it says before and after, you want both of those fields to read 0. If you needed to or wanted a specific number, again, like remember I said 1.33, you can just type in that 1.33, and that'll change the spacing of the sentence before or after each sentence. And to the right of that, you've got line spacing. So here again, you can select single if that's what you needed to do. And again, you can do this before you begin typing, or if you already created a paragraph or two and you change your mind about spacing, it's not a problem. You can make a change to your spacing after you've typed something up, and not just spacing between sentences, spacing between paragraphs as well. So for example, here if I got a few paragraphs, maybe I want to change the spacing, maybe to tighten it up or make it make the spaces a bit larger between each paragraph. So I'll select the paragraphs, all 3 paragraphs, go to my line and paragraph spacing command, and let's click, let's choose, we're going to add space before each paragraph. So click that, and that's going to change our spacing. Or, again, maybe we want to customize that spacing. We can do that as well. Click on that line spacing options and put in the spacing options that we want. And we're good to go. Another area that will help you when it comes to formatting a document, again, especially something when it comes to something like a resume, are your margins. Again, here's another default for you. Microsoft does a 1-inch margin by default, which is definitely totally okay. But for a resume, anything I'd say between 0.7 and 1 inch is totally acceptable. You don't want your margins to be too narrow or too wide. Basically, that means you want to control your white space, the white space on your page. So again, depending on how much stuff you have in your document, if you've got a lot of stuff in your document, you you probably don't want a thin margin because it'll seem crowded. But again, it's definitely something to play around with to see how it looks. Remember, you cannot break it. You cannot break the document. Just don't save it when you when you've played around with it if you don't like the changes or the way it looks. So again, by default, Microsoft does a 1-inch margin. If you want to change that margin to something else, you can go to your ribbon and those tabs we talked about before, the file, the home, the insert, and layout. You go there, and you can click on the layout tab. When you click on the layout tab, a new ribbon's going to appear, and the first command you're going to see is probably the margins command. You can click on margins, click on that margins command, and if you see a certain margin that you want to use, click on it. Otherwise, you can customize, you can put your own numbers in there. To do that, you just go all the way down to that second custom margins, click on it. When you do that, a window's going to open up, and that window, that box is going to give you the ability to actually type in or control your top, bottom, left, and right margins. So you can punch in what you want, or you can click the up and down arrows and see what's available there. When you're done, click OK, you get yourself new margins. Something else that's pretty cool about Word is the fact that you can insert things, not just other words and things like that, but also things like pictures and embed videos and charts and graphs, which is pretty cool because a lot of people, they're somewhat intimidated by the Excel process. And what's cool about Microsoft Office and Microsoft Word is the fact that it imports parts of Excel so you can easily create a chart. So again, if you want to do something like insert a chart into your document, it's easy. Just again, go back to your ribbon and you've got an insert tab. You click the insert tab, and when you click on the insert tab, a new set of commands are going to appear, and one of those commands is for charts. You click that. Sorry. When you click charts, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. This screen allows you to actually put in your parameters for your chart. Whatever data you have, insert that. You can change those names, category 1, 2, category 2, 3, and 4, and put in titles if you want. Change the series and put in titles if you want. Put your data in there, and it's going to build you a chart, which is pretty cool. That way you don't have to go into Excel to do that. Once you've done creating your document, hopefully you do proofing, and you do a spelling and grammar check. Most people I know, they actually wait to the very end to do their spelling and grammar check. I usually don't. I usually do mine as I'm going along. But if you do wait until the end, there's nothing wrong with that. You're going to go to your ribbon. On your ribbon, you've got a review tab. That review tab, when you click on it, the first command you're going to see is the spelling and grammar command. And when you click on that, Word is going to walk you through all of the errors that it thinks you made. And again, it's important to hear that Word thinks Just because Microsoft thinks something is incorrect, especially when it comes to spelling and names, doesn't make it so. So here we talk about how you can ignore certain things that Microsoft thinks are errors. So again, when you click on spelling grammar command, this little window is going to open up. That window is going to walk you through all the words that it thinks that are in error. So if you think the word is in error, you can, click on the right spelling, for example, that Microsoft is giving you, and click change. If you don't think Microsoft is correct, you can just hit ignore. If it's something that you're going to use a lot, or it's going to be a word that's used a lot, like a name of someone, you can click add. That way it won't consider it an error anymore. Once you're done, click OK. You're good to go. And again, just because Microsoft says this word is an error or puts a red line underneath the word, so that's what happens if Microsoft thinks that there's a word, a misspelling, it's going to put a red line underneath that word. Okay? So you can just ignore it. Like so. Just click ignore and keep going. And if you want to, you click ignore all. And it'll also skip all the other instances of that same word. For grammar errors, usually Microsoft will put a blue line underneath certain words as well. So you're looking out for red and blue lines, and also green lines as well. Green lines usually mean punctuation is needed somewhere. And here we've got an example of that. Okay, so at the bottom here you can see that there's some words that are underlined in red, some that are underlined in blue as well. Again, red means that it's a misspelled word. Blue is an indication of a grammatical error. And again, still, even with grammatical errors, that doesn't mean it's correct. So you will know better than Microsoft. But still, definitely do a spelling and grammar check during or when you're done. And like I said, this is what it looks like when you do it during or while you're creating your document. So what happens is this: when I type something up and Microsoft thinks that I've made a misspelled something, and it puts a red line underneath it, what I'll do if I know that that word is correct, I'll just right click, or incorrect, I'll right click on that red line. And when you right click on the line, a little window's going to open up giving you some options. Some of the options are going to be potential correct spellings of that word. If you do see the correct spelling, you just click on it, it'll change it for you. If, however, that word is spelled correctly, you can click ignore or add to dictionary if you plan on using it quite a bit more. Okay? The same goes for the blue and the green lines as well. And here's an example of a blue line. Microsoft thinks that there should not be an apostrophe. Maybe there should be. Totally up to you. So again, if you agree with Microsoft, you can select the option there. If not, you can hit ignore. Once you're done with your spelling and grammar check, you're going to probably want to print your document, which I'm sure most of you know how to do. If not, easy peasy. You can hit Control P, or you can click on your File tab. Your File tab will drop down a print option. Click on Print. More than likely, you've already got your printer set up as your default printer. If not, select the printer that you want to use and send your job to. Select the number of copies you want to make. Click the print icon, and you're rolling. Yep, it's 2021. I still got the same old Giphy Jiffy in there. I'll change it for the next time. But please, don't get so frustrated where you throw your laptop. Just hang in there. If you need help, reach out. So if you're interested in learning more about the Microsoft workshops or the workshops in general, we have some fantastic ones here, whether it's LinkedIn or Master Your Job Search. Check out jobsforpeople.org. If you got any questions for me, reach out. My email address is white@jjc.edu. Everyone, let's have a fantastic 2021, and I will talk to you later.